In today's world, semiconductor and the chip or TB panel making industries are having geopolitical significance. How the semiconductor and the chip making industries affecting the geopolitics of today's world. Because the today's world is changing day in and day out. The world order is changing day in and day out. So this is a very important topic to discuss, that how it will going to affect the future geopolitics. In this topic we will going to discuss all those things in detail. So over the past few years there have been three major geopolitical developments that may reshape the structural paradigm, the paradigm that drives the trade and the politics over the semiconductors and the microchips. In these days, the semiconductor has been used relentlessly in making the phones, cars, medical devices, computer and the fighter jets. There are few countries around the world those have achieved mastery in making microchips. China is also among them. The chip has been very geopolitically connected these days because today's world is digitally connected. All digital goods use semiconductor and chips. By using these semiconductors and the chips and these devices and the devices related to these semiconductor and the chips, one country can snoop against another. In this snooping matter, the China is the very suspicious these days because they have been involved in this kind of incidents. We will going to discuss later in this topic. That is why the Chinese company Huawei was banned by the USA, by US Congress, and some other Chinese digital brands are banned. Some other various nations around the world, like the India has banned the Huawei. The most of the European countries has banned the Huawei. The Huawei was involved in the snooping by implementing their 5G technology around the world. That is why they were banned in the USA, in EU and the India. And all these are happening because of the China factor, which has pushed the leading industries and the military powers in the free world to secure the resources and the supply chains, pin down the alliances and deprive the Beijing of the strategic assets. In today's world, the Beijing is an economic power. Maybe they are not an military power itself. Military power only belongs to the USA, not belongs to the Russia. So, in today's world, the United States is trying to curtail the power of the Chinese in these industries. In some of the precious industry, that includes the semiconductor industries. That is why in today's world, because of the China factor, the semiconductor making industry having an effect in geopolitics. So, the US and the EU's domestic semiconductor chip production got the boost. First, the Joe Biden administration has urged the US Congress to unlock the 52 billion in subsidies to the domestic chip manufacturing. Although USA is the biggest manufacturers of the semiconductor in the world, the world's 46% semiconductor and the chips are being manufactured by the USA alone. Still, they are very much concerned in this globalized world, because in this globalized world, one country cannot produce in single goods by their own. They have to import the goods from the other nations. Second, the European Union is pushing in Semiconductor Chips Act. They aiming at doubling the blocks production of the semiconductors to 20% of the global trade by the end of the decade. The US Commission has drafted a stimulus package worth billions of euros relating to this Chips Act, which has three main aspects. The first aspect is a clear European research strategy, the development of production capacities, the international partnership and cooperation. And the third one, because of the China, the Taiwan shadowboxing in the Lithuania. As I already said in the other topics, that the China and the EU, USA and Taiwan itself is fighting in Lithuania, because Lithuania has allowed the Taiwan to open a de facto embassy within its capital city Vilnius. So the China has released their embargo against the Lithuanian trade. They are blocking the Lithuanian goods to enter the China. So now the Taiwan has already announced a $200 million investment plan in the tiny but the biggest Baltic state of the Europe, which will include the cooperation or the cooperatives on the chip making industry. That is why the Taiwan is trying to build and they're trying to shift their chip making industry in Europe through the Lithuania. They are helping the Lithuania to get the industry, to helping their people to earn the more. And these days the China is threatening the Taiwan by invading its airspace and the water bodies. And the China is frequently sending its fighters and the naval ships within the Taiwanese boundary. Because China thinks the Taiwan is the part of the China. Taiwan is not an independent nation according to the China. They want the Taiwan within the Chinese fold, within the Chinese regime. Because of the ever rising threats of an invasion, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company is now contemplating diversifying its production in countries which it thinks will come to the Taiwan's rescue in the events of the Chinese invasion. That is why they are diversifying their production to the other countries. The Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company has biggest share in the world semiconductor industry. It has 54% share of the global foundry revenue. In chip making, the Taiwan was so far concentrating on the United States and the Japan in this regard. But now it has also concentrating in the European semiconductor ecosystem and the Indian semiconductor ecosystem, because recently the Indian cabinet approved 76,000 crore PLI scheme for semiconductor manufacturing. The Indian government will going to give the subsidies in taxes, in taxation systems in making the semiconductors within the boundary of India. At present, the global chip industry is highly fragmented, each fragmentation having its own specialization. Some are specialized in material mining or design or the research, some are in development or mechanical engineering, some are in contract manufacturing, testing or assembly or packaging. So only in single country, only country cannot make itself properly covered to make an semiconductor. They have to connect to the other countries, they have to import to the other countries. So the semiconductor industry is very diversified. Only one player cannot achieve all these goals. They have to show their dependency on the others. No country in the world today is the self-sufficient. No country in the world today is self-sufficient in chip manufacturing. Suppose the USA is making something, then they have to import something from the Taiwan. They have to import something from the Europe. They have to import something from Japan. So Japan is specialized in making something, Taiwan is specialized in making something, Europe is specialized in making something, United States is also specialized in making something. So they have to collaborate, they have to work together. That is why the Taiwanese industry is that much important. The Taiwan is also a leading player in semiconductor industry. Taiwan is the dominant player in the microchip sector of East Asia. They are successful in this industry because they do contract manufacturing. Taiwan do the customer specific chip designs, and they took the bulk order volume in advance from various companies, from various countries. And here the Taiwan is the leader, having 63% share of world market. The Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company is the world's leading manufacturers of graphics processors for computers and servers. Its largest manufacturer happens to be Apple. So Taiwan is also home to the Advanced Semiconductor Engineering Inc. Group, a world leader in testing and assembly. The Samsung, a Korean manufacturer which has 17% of world global market and has established itself a second most important player after Taiwanese semiconductor manufacturers. The Japan also have some semiconductor companies specialized in warfare manufacturing and the coating. The world's largest semiconductor wafer manufacturer, Shin-Etsu, deals with the TSMC, that is the Taiwanese semiconductor company, and Samsung. The Renesas Electronics, also chip manufacturer company specialized in the production of chips for automotive industry. It is the third largest company for automobile semiconductor. The US is also superior in chip manufacturing. The largest chip vendor in the United States is Intel, which is also the world's principal full-range chip supplier in the world. In today's world, we are seeing that the computer, graphics card, computer processors are all come from the Intel. Now the AMD is also making their steps aggressively against the other players. In fact, the Intel is responsible for everything for technological design to production. They are particularly dominant in computer microprocessor manufacturing. So in microprocessor market, it has a global market share of around 80%. That means all the countries around the world are making their microprocessor. So it is the US that dominates in processing the intellectual property from chip design, device manufacturing, and now wafer materials. In Europe, the most important semiconductor company is Advanced Semiconductor Materials Lithography, based in Netherlands. It's specialized in production machines for highly complex chips. Each machine they build cost nearly 120 million euros. So you can see that how this semiconductor industry is helpful for the economical advancement. China is also a player in the semiconductor industry, semiconductor business, but they are not that significant like the USA, Taiwan, Japan, and the European semiconductor industry. The China is home to the Semiconductor Manufacturing International Cooperation, which is the fifth largest contract manufacturer. But since it is partly state owned, it has been under the US sanctions. Since the December 2020, the sanction has also adversely affected the China, which is particularly weak in the area of the advanced microprocessor needed for the smartphones, desktop, and the laptops. The sanctions have also weakened the Chinese company Huawei because the Huawei was the Taiwan's TSMC's second most important customer after the Apple. But the Huawei has been banned by the USA because of the interference in the 5G technology. They were trying to snooping against the countries where they were ready to install their products. The Huawei has developed a design for an advanced chip called the high silicon Kirin 9000 and then outsourced the production of the chip to the Taiwanese semiconductor manufacturer TSMC. But due to the sanction, the TSMC stopped supplying the chips to the Huawei. Now the Huawei has become vulnerable for the Chinese investment, vulnerable for the Chinese economy. The Huawei was banned on the suspicions of the data theft from the Western servers by using the semiconductors and the microchips that I have already mentioned. That the Huawei is trying to steal the data, trying to snoop against the countries. The China think they are the superior because the China is not a country which is democratic, which is an authoritarian country. They wants to dominate the world economically, dominate the world militarily, like the USSR have this kind of agenda. As I said, the China is a player in this industry, but their position is very weak on microchips. Though they are trying to develop the domestic capacities or the capabilities to produce the most advanced types of these chips. But the China is not doing well in making advanced chips because they lack expertise and the knowledge in this field. Why? Because they basically rely on the reverse engineering and the cloning of the foreign products, a method that has proved otherwise to be cheap and effective in its competition with the US or the West. They are not original chip makers. They steal the goods, they steal the design from the others. That is what China do. On the other hand, its competitors are aggressively investing to make their industry more fine. The previously discussed countries are planning to invest more billions of dollars to make their existing semiconductor industry more superior, though China is lacking behind, lacking in making those technology advanced, lacking in making those technology more finer for their original product. The Intel now intends to enter the foundry businesses and invest 20 billion US dollar for this. In fact, that case, it is not an encouraging situation for the Taiwanese semiconductor manufacturing and the Samsung, because Intel is competing against those organizations, the Taiwan's organizations, the semiconductor organizations, and the Korea Samsungs. They are trying to build themselves as a sole manufacturer of the semiconductor and the chip devices, but the TSMC would hike the capital expenditure to as much as $44 billion, almost 3 times more than 2019-2020 time period. They are also trying to get into the play where the Intel is. The Samsung is also planning to increase its budgetary spending. They are also trying to increase their budgetary spending. But India is very weak in this field. Why? Because the India has no base in this industry. They do not have any base. Now Indian government is thinking of doing something significant. Because India did not have the significant semiconductor industry. India used to export and the still exporting the precious semiconductor goods from the other nations. The efforts to build the local semiconductor fabrication units over the last 2 decades have been unsuccessful due to the high cost and lack of stable policy. And India also do not have the expertise. But India is a country, those who copy like an Chinese. Chinese love to copy, but the Indians do like their original goods. The key of these electronics manufacturing is the semiconductor fabs. We have long way to go. So India have to make itself the key player in this field. How India will going to make itself a key player in this field? That is why the Indian government has came up with an semiconductor mission. The Technology Minister Ashwini Vaisham launched India Semiconductor Mission on December 29, 2021. Under this scheme, the interested companies which seeks to tap the 76,000 crore incentives are earmarked by the central government for developing semiconductor and displaying manufacturing ecosystem in India will be able to start applying for it from January 1, 2022. A portal for the scheme has been prepared in order to receive the application. So India is also trying their semiconductor mission. India is also trying to specialize and trying to make itself independent in making the Indian digital cooperations very, very effective for the others. The mission has set up with an objective of building a vibrant semiconductor besides displaying the ecosystems in order for the India to emergence as a global hub of electronics manufacturing and the design. It is authorized to negotiate with applicants under semiconductor fab scheme and display fab scheme. It has also given the autonomy to decide the appropriate technology mix, node generation, application capacity, etc. The scheme was launched with an aim attracting the large investment in manufacturing AMOLED-based display panels and the TFT LCD. So India is also trying their best to make itself independent in making the semiconductor industry, because India have understood the significance of the semiconductor industry in the geopolitics, like the other countries have realized. The USA has realized long before. Taiwan also realized, because they were isolated from the China in 1960s, 1970s. So they built themselves as an independent nation through this semiconductor manufacturing. And semiconductor manufacturing is based on the world peace and the geostrategically important. As I said, all the other countries, those who have base of the semiconductor industry, they are trying to snooping against the other countries. The China is in this case trying to take the upper hand by capturing the Taiwan. Why they are trying to capture the Taiwan? Because the China do not have any significant semiconductor industrial base. They do not have expertise. They are less knowledgeable in this field. They are not trying to make itself and superior by teaching themselves aggressively, but they are trying to steal the Taiwanese industry. Taiwanese semiconductor industry, they are trying to capture the Taiwan along with its chip manufacturing industry, because the USA is backing the Taiwan. That is also an Achilles heel for the China in the Pacific region. And China is trying to gain the upper hand in this matter by capturing the Taiwan, as I said. Now the China do the reverse engineering, but the Taiwan technology is pure and the original. They are trying to capture the pure and the original from the Taiwan. They are not trying to make itself what they should. Because they do not have a time, because they think they have to make themselves economically and militarily powerful in this time and in these days. This is what an authoritarian country thinks. This is the way the authoritarian country thinks. Like the USAs are used to think. The China is trying to challenge the US global power. So to gain the superpower, to gain being a superpower of the world. See, this is a propaganda machine. The semiconductor industry in today's world is kind of a propaganda industry. All the countries, those who are using their brains, like the India, they are moving slowly to rebuild themselves in this field. But the China do not have a time. They think they do not have a time. They have to make themselves superpower in today's time. That is why the semiconductor manufacturing is geopolitically significant in today's world. Now the question is, which of the following countries is the biggest semiconductor manufacturers of the world? The first option is USA, second is Taiwan, third is China, fourth is Netherlands. So that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.